All right, good morning, everybody. It's Monday morning's edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician, and we talk a little bit about everything. You just never know what we're going to talk about, and this Monday is no exception. Frank Sundram may be calling. He said he was going to talk about, I guess he's going to talk about his GMC motorhome he was working on the other day. But one of the things that I do find out is air conditioning season. It's hot outside, and that's probably what Frank was going to call about. And people have a tendency to, well, they want to fix their own air conditioning, and I can't blame them. I mean, that's the way I am. That's the way a lot of people are. And they'll go out and they'll buy the parts, and they'll put them in, and then they don't work. And a lot of times they buy the parts, well, they're the cheapest parts they can buy because they find them on sale. And I had a gentleman come to me the other day. He says, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, and I can't get any cold air to come out of it. And I said, where did you buy your parts at? Well, I bought it from XYZ parts store and XYZ this one and that one. I went, I'm going to let you know a secret. When you're dealing with expansion valves and things that are moving parts, especially on air conditioning, I recommend buying the factory parts. I really, really do. You'll save a lot of time and effort, especially when you're dealing with expansion valves and things that move because they're reverse engineered. And sometimes you get something that's aftermarket that just doesn't work. Anyway, Frank Sundram did decide to call this morning. Good morning, Frank. How are we doing today, sir?
Good morning. Just fine, James.
Good.
And topic is expansion valves.
What about the expansion valve? We were just talking about it.
Yes. And I'm having one that's misbehaving.
So are you trying to attempt that removal of the expansion valve on your GMC truck?
Well, at some point I am. I haven't gotten there yet. But what you say is absolutely correct. A factory part is the way to go.
It normally is. We see people come in and they'll buy an aftermarket part and they'll put it in and it just doesn't work like it's supposed to. And I tell them, I said, look, when you're dealing with parts that move like expansion valves or PCV valves or even things such as O2 sensors, I always try to get factory parts. If not, it kind of gets you in a world of trouble sometimes. You just never know what you're going to get into. But I know that you have an older model car. Now, I do have to preface this. Once a car gets more than 10 years old, they're not, a lot of times the parts, you can buy the OE parts like from the parts store because now the patent has run out on them and they're able to give you the exact parts. Now, you've got a 77 motorhome, Frank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we looked at it the other day and we saw how it was, you say sometimes it's cold as ice and then other times it's warm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so I looked at it and I said, well, the only thing that would cause your problem so long as the compressor's staying on is going to be the expansion valve. And that's a pretty common problem if even today's cars, if the expansion valve or orifice tube gets clogged up, they don't cool. You just get high side pressures and, well, you don't get any coolness out of it. You just get a compressor that kicks on and off, and that's about it. I don't know if you want to talk any more about that or not. You said you want to talk more about aim, fire, ready. I think that's what you said, talking about how we seem to attack our politicians out there and how we go about solving problems.
Well, the topic this morning is ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim. I got it backwards there. But why do you say? Why are you telling it? Why is it ready, aim, fire?
Well,
ready, fire.
Go
ahead.
Ready, fire, aim. It's kind of like when you're standing against a firing squad, and the guy they're pointing guns at you, and the guy will say, ready, fire, and then remind people to aim first. It should be ready, aim, fire.
Right. And unfortunately...
But it's the law. Yeah, it's the law of unintended consequences all around us.
True.
Folks try to accomplish one thing, and you get something very, very different.
Isn't that the truth? Those unintended consequences.
Yes, big words for a Monday morning.
It is. But, even in my industry, you think about how you're going to go about fixing a car, and you go about doing it, and sometimes it doesn't. What you think's going to work out a certain way doesn't necessarily work. But I think you're talking more about in the political aspect of it, are you not? Is that what you're talking?
Well, we're talking about cars, and we're going to talk about tariffs and the unintended consequences of the proposed tariffs that are being slapped on all over the world. There is right now a suggestion that on cars coming from Germany, there'll be a There are going to be tariffs, and then the minute you slap a tariff on one nation, they're going to slap a tariff on you as a retaliation. So what happens are two things. What happens is that the consumer in this country pays more. And sometimes the local businesses that were supposed to be protected actually go out of business.
That is, whatever happened to the idea of free trade? I thought that's one of the things we were all working on. You don't charge me any tariffs, I don't charge you any tariffs. And then I read this weekend where it sounds like the Supreme Court ruled that if you are on the internet, you can charge sales tax whether you have a business in that state or not. So I'm sitting here going like, wait a minute, everything that we thought was normal is not normal. It sounds like everybody's got their hand out trying to figure out how to put businesses out of business. If on the tax part of it, I think a lot of that's going to affect a lot of online merchants where they may actually stop. They may actually go out of business. Have you heard? Got any comments on that?
Well, I have very mixed feelings about online trade. I appreciate that. At the same time, what is happening, and you're seeing it happen right here in Panama City Mall. The mall is being shelled out. Your shopping centers are being shelled out. A lot of the mom and pop stores are going out of business because they can't compete, because they've got to pay taxes on stuff, which they should. A reminder to everyone, well, we have become so reflexively anti-tax, but yet taxes are what we pay to live in a society. You can't have roads that connect without taxes. You can't have schools. You can't have all that stuff without a collective effort at forming a civilization. And online businesses don't pay any of that. And so it puts them at a significant advantage over the businesses that actually contribute to society and make all the other things possible. So while I'm all for free trade and I'm all for a free internet, I am frank, and I love when I can save some money buying something from Amazon. At the same time, I recognize that the 6 or 8% I don't pay, some of it goes to the school, some of it goes to the arts organizations in town, some of it goes towards the roads. And by golly, I like all those things.
Well,
I like the fact that that kids. That my money goes to schools to pay for kids, even though sometimes the schools may misuse the money.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, it's about a 7 to 10%, depending on some states, as much as 10% or more off of purchase price if you don't have to pay sales tax on it. And that's one of the reasons that on the tax-free days, back to school tax-free days, the stores are full of people buying things back to school that are tax-free. I tell people all the time, sales taxes, I know you said we have to have them for society, but they seem to be regressive in a way that they make people not want to buy things, or wait till they get it where it's tax-free. And that's one of the reasons I think that if they pass that law and make it where where you have to pay taxes on things you're buying online, people might start buying from the mom and pops locally. I mean, that may be another area that makes it level the playing field, because I have to pay sales tax on when people bring a car in to be repaired. And I have people all the time, well, I can buy that online and it's going to be XYZ cheaper because, I don't pay tax on it. I said, well, if you buy it online, you can install it yourself online. But it doesn't work that way. If I buy it, I've got to charge you for it, and I've got to mark it up, and I got to charge you sales tax on it. And some people just, they don't like the idea that, they just don't like the idea that you mark them up or that you charge tax on them. They think they should be tax-free, and it just doesn't work that way. And that's what you're talking about when it comes to these internet. People were buying things, at 10% off pretty much, right, with the taxes?
Yeah, and that reflects that. At the same time, what happens is that by doing that, we put a lot of local businesses out of business.
Right.
And which then doesn't essentially feeds on itself, because then the tax burden actually falls harder on the local citizens who are out there shopping on Amazon to save 10%, because now their taxes go up because the local businesses who also pay into it don't pay.
That's true.
But here's a number to consider. All tax-free holidays are actually tax neutral by the time you're done with it.
Hmm.
Because it draws people into stores, and yes, they buy the tax-free items, but while they're there, they spend additional money buying stuff where the tax is that they wouldn't otherwise buy.
Okay. So you're saying that they're buying things, it's kind of like a come-on to get them to come in there and buy things, and they're still spending taxes, so that's a tax neutral. Okay. Maybe that's the way it is. I don't know. I just know my wife loves to go shopping when it's the tax-free days. That's when everyone in my house gets all brand new underwear when that happens. It's kind of amazing. On tax-free days, that seems to be the time twice a year or I think it's twice a year they have it. But it is pretty amazing out there. Frank, we got about 3 or 4 minutes left. What would you recommend for people out there on the taxing? What is your viewpoint about on Amazon? I mean, you say, yeah, you like the 10% off because you don't pay taxes on it, but what do you see happening in the next year or so with Amazon online?
Really good question. Amazon has become one of the largest stealth employers in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it's also one of the worst places to work at if you are working in the warehouses, because it goes through people very, very quickly, because people are out there. The physical demands are so very, very high. There's been a lot of investigative reporting and writing about the working conditions of people in the Amazon warehouses. We're not talking about corporate. We're talking about the warehouses where people run up and down the warehouses, picking up parts and stuff like that. And at some point, Amazon's going to have to deal with it through 2 or 3 things. They rely on people who are displaced, and they rely on people who are retirees who travel around the country in their motorhomes, and they stay at these RV parks, and they go to work every morning. But they are actually running out of workforce because people are learning that it's not a good place to work at the work conditions they have. And so Amazon's got a huge bet going whether they can start getting into robotic parts pulling and things like that as opposed to human beings. And the other thing coming is drone delivery, because that's the other cost that they have. How do they get it into your hands?
That's interesting. Speaking of not drone delivery, but my in-laws were talking about Walmart, how the associates now are pulling things off the shelf. And I said, what do you mean they're pulling things off the shelf? He says, people call in their orders or put them online, and Walmart will go put them in a basket or box, and you come by and pick them up. I went, really? I had no idea. So we're seeing the evolution of shopping, even locally, is changing. It's changing. So hopefully that the people will, the fire aim ready, is people will start realizing that there's definitely a plan going on here. The plan is to get people more organized, where I guess you don't have to drive so much either, and you just call in and say, this is what I want, or I guess go online, order it. They put it in a box for you, come by, pay your bill, and pick it up. So things are going on the same line as Amazon locally as well as they are nationally. So,
there is a good move in it. And there are places where you can call in your grocery order, and they'll pull it for you and have it for you. All you've got to do is to drive up to a designated place, and they will bring it out to you.
Yeah, But
that is a different phenomenon that is actually dealing with both a time factor of people so busy they can't walk into a grocery store, or they're physically unable to do so. And that really is a topic for us to discuss at another time.
Yes, it
is. Because there are a lot of trend lines happening that are making this happen. And in the process, our world is changing in front of us, under our feet, while we don't even realize it's happening.
That is so true. I mean, the idea of me calling or getting online and getting a hold of Walmart and saying, I want this, I'll pick it up, it's brand new to me, but it's a great idea, especially for those that don't have time or can't do that. Maybe they're physically limited. I'm up against clock.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I got Scott Hobbs on here. He's Mr. Rooter, if you don't know who he is. He's a gentleman plumber, and they've got ways of taking care of your plumbing. They got things. Well, they call him Mr. Rooter for a reason, because they know how to take care of your house and your fixtures, and where it looks better than it did when you came in there. They make sure they don't trash your house. Good morning, Scott. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Now, last week we talked about that y'all have financing, and I had a couple of people said, I didn't know they had financing. I said, well, it's not in-house financing, I don't believe, but they do have it where if you have an emergency, you can actually get your house fixed, and they can do it on the cell phone while you're talking to them. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. We have a company that we use that is their specialty is home services, so they understand that, people have unexpected emergencies and repairs that have to be done. So they're very lenient and conscious of that fact. And if you're a homeowner, chances are you're going to get financed. We can take care of it. So water heater that needs to be replaced, it started leaking unexpectedly. You didn't realize you've got to replace your drain field for your septic, repipe your home, replace the sewer line. There's just all sorts of things that could come up that you didn't realize were going to happen.
And some of these bills get rather expensive. No one thinks about them being expensive till we have a problem. But I'm just guessing a septic tank is probably several $1,000s for a septic tank, and I don't think many people put back savings for a septic tank, because that's something that's out of sight, out of mind. But you could probably drop $10,000, $15,000 easily in putting a septic tank down. Just guessing. I don't know if that's the right numbers or not, but I know it's not.
Sure. It's kind of like one of those things. How long is a piece of string? But
yeah.
It really depends on your home site, and
right.
Even if your neighbor spent $4,000, you may be different. Your soil conditions may be a little different, and it may cost you a little bit more. So it's really hard to judge until somebody comes out and does a proper site evaluation.
And that's true. And we've talked about using the BioChoice, which I have right here, just in case people want to know what I'm talking about. This is called BioChoice right here. And this is not an enzyme. This is not something that puts the problem, kicks the can down the road. This takes care of it permanently. It turns it from the fats, oils, and grease into, am I saying it right, water, and lets it dissolve away and keeps your septic tank, your drain fields clean. And if you're on city sewer, it keeps your drain line going to the sewer system from clogging up. And it's relatively inexpensive. It's not hazardous, won't eat your pipes. And if your dog or cat gets into it, I don't think it'll hurt them. I don't think they'll get into it because it doesn't have much of a taste to it. Because I've tasted it before, and it's kind of bland. It's kind of bland. Yeah, it's kind of bland, but it's not poisonous, and it's a natural probiotic, so to speak, for your septic tank or your drain field. I don't know if that's the right word to use, probiotic, but it's doing a good job of making sure all the good bacteria stays good and promotes good bacteria and not the bad bacteria. Because I think there's good bacteria.
Exactly right.
Yeah, because there's bad bacteria in your septic tank as well as good bacteria, and I think the bad bacteria you don't want, but there's good bacteria that breaks everything down, and that's what you're trying to make, and that's what this stuff does. It actually makes good bacteria, and saves you a lot of money on that. What is on BioChoice? Now, people want to get it. I know they say, well, how do I get it? I said, I think if you call 763-2001 and tell them you want it, when they have someone in your area, they'll drop it by your house.
Oh, that's right. So we're serving 5 counties, and we have trucks in those 5 counties, constantly. Mm-hmm. So if you're, say, over in Callaway or Panama City Beach, and you call up the office and say, hey, can you drop me off a bottle of BioChoice when you're in the area?
Right.
We'll put it on the schedule, and we'll swing in and drop off a bottle of BioChoice to you. Or, we do have a few people that stop in our office and pick them up, but we don't mind dropping by, at your convenience. we can take a credit card over the phone and drop it off on your front doorstep. You don't even have to be there.
And what I try to get people to do is say, why don't you go have them drop this by, and while they come by, have them do a quick walkthrough. And they go, what's a quick walkthrough? And I said, believe it or not, that's part of their service. If I'm not mistaken, they will actually walk through your house, looking at your drains, looking at your knobs and things, and see if there's any services you may need. And that doesn't cost anything. Am I saying that right? Just for a quick walkthrough?
Well, with every service call, with every service call, we do as part of our service, we'll do a plumbing checkup to go along with the call to make sure that if we're working on one part of the house, it's just kind of like your automotive. You work on one end of the car, and a few days later, it's, hey, you're just working on my car, and now the back end, something on the back end's not working.
Yeah.
So we do it for your benefit, the homeowner's benefit, and our benefit, so we don't have to make another trip back out to work on something that we should have caught. So we do a complete plumbing checkup. If you have a proper access to your drain line, we'll camera your main sewer line to make sure that that's in good shape. There's no roots growing in, and we can at that time discuss the bio choice with you. And it's you said it was very economical, and it is. It's just a few dollars per treatment. One bottle, depending on the size of your home, could last you 3, 4, 5 months.
Oh yeah.
So it's very economical.
It is, and for the bigger units, which I had no idea until we talked about it. For big units, like for industrial, like for restaurants or whatever, you have an automatic drip dispenser that dispenses this automatically without out of sight, out of mind. You just fill it up once a month. The machine does it automatically, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars yearly to have grease traps pumped out and things like that. I think that's the right way of saying it, because you say it keeps the grease traps from clogging up.
It will reduce the amount of pumping that is required. Now, some municipalities mandate that you have to pump, every 3 months, once a month, whatever, regardless of the condition of the grease trap, just because they're wanting to protect their system. But you're as a restaurant owner, a business owner, your motivation is you don't want to be shut down and lose business.
Right.
So if you have a free-flowing system that's virtually almost guaranteed, by the fact that you're not going to have grease build up, then you're going to, the few dollars a month that it costs is going to be well worth it.
Well, that few dollars a month will save you thousands and thousands of dollars. Like we talk about, you don't think about a drain field going bad and having to replace it until someone says, hey, we've looked at your drain field. It's not percolating right. I think that's the right word to use. And it's not doing its job. And we need to move it about 50 feet to the left and this way. And that's going to cost you another X amount of dollars. And that's a lot of money that most people don't have in their budget. So being proactive, which we talk about, like changing your oil in your car. No one thinks twice about, every 3 to 6 months changing oil. Well, people may go years without adding anything down their drain. And it's because, I guess, the plumbing industry, you said, has not done a good job about being proactive about, preventative maintenance. And this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to let people know that there's a way that they can keep from having expensive bills by being proactive, by doing preventative maintenance, by using BioChoice, or by having someone come by and visually look at your drains or your on-off, your valves, those things. Even the shut-off valves. No one, even I didn't think about it. The shut-off valve to your house, how important it is that it works. Because you've told me, and I have found out myself personally, a lot of times over a period of time, shut-off valves don't work. They may turn, but they don't shut anything off. They just turn and turn and turn. And I'm sure y'all see that every day, I bet, at Mr. Reuter.
Right. It's kind of like anything else, the old term, use it or lose it.
Yes.
If it's not used regularly, it's going to freeze up. That brass will, over time, deteriorate, and you try to put some pressure on it, and the sediment has froze up the little plunger that stops the flow of water, and it's just going to break. And you're in a situation where you need it, and it's not available. So it's always good to have that serviced regularly and know where it's at. So many folks, will say, "Hey, where's your main water shut off?" And they're like, "I don't know. I don't know where it's at."
Well, that's something and that's really something that people need to know. Every homeowner needs to know. If you don't know where your water shut off is, You really need to know that, because if you have an emergency, how long is it going to take you to turn that water off if you don't know where it's at? So that's really the first thing people need to know, and they need to know where the clean out is closest to the house as well. Is that? I guess that's the one they want to know in case there's a clog or the drains. Say the lift stations don't work and it's starting to back up. You can go take that cap off and let it run into your yard instead of flooding in your house. And cleaning your yard's a heck of a lot easier than trying to clean, your house out.
There was a case several years ago over in the Cove area, Panama City Cove area, where the guy's house was a little bit lower. He had kind of almost a basement, and the utility department system was backing up, and it was flooding his basement area, his lower area, and it was a mess. If it had some sort of relief, it would have probably saved a lot of property damage.
Well, but those two things, where your drain out, where your clean out is, and where your water on off shut off valve is, those are two things. And you need to ask yourself, if you're watching the show, do you know where that is in your house? Do you know where the water on off switch is? I mean, the valve is at the street. If you don't know where it's at, you need to find out, make sure it works. And if you don't know where that is, find it out and get that, and then find out where what they call it, a clean out. Is that what they call that, Scott?
Right. A clean out is the former term, but it'll be an access to your main drain line where it comes out of the house, and there should be one within 24 inches of your home where it exits your home, and there should be one close to the city connection right by the sidewalk or street. Okay.
So most people, there should be two of them, but most people are only aware of one. Is that right? Or not even aware of that one?
Yeah, a lot of people aren't aware of that one either. So that's why we're trying to educate them. We want them to know, hey, pop that cap. I'd rather see it. I'd rather worry about cleaning up the spill in your grass or in your flower bed than dealing with cleaning that bacteria out of your carpet, your furniture, and everything else.
It's ruined. You might as well throw it away. You're never going to clean it out. It's just ruined. So it's a lot easier just to have it go in your yard, throw a little lime out, some soap and water. Next thing you know, everything's cleaned up and everything's good to go. Nature has a great way of cleaning things up. But if people want to know more about preventative maintenance, more about taking care of their drains, that's what you're doing. You're educating people so that they don't have to. Well, they don't have to find out the hard way like you're talking about that person in the Cove. You can go by there and say, hey, we know this area. You need to make sure that your drains are cleaned out because of the root problems or whatever. And y'all can take care of that. And all they need to do is call 763-2001 Monday through,
Monday.
20, I was going to say 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anytime. Just call, and y'all can come and take care of them. Monday through Sunday. And it doesn't matter. Even if you call at 2 o'clock in the morning in an emergency, you will have someone there shortly. If I'm not,
there you go.
They may not like it, but they'll be there.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Scott, I'm going to have to let you go. I really appreciate you getting on here. Thanks so much. And we'll be talking to you again this week, and I hope everything's working out in your jetter, because I know you use that thing every day. I see y'all pulling it all over town.
We sure do, man. Thank you for getting it going for us. My guys were really happy to get out there and start helping folks with it.
Well, tell them I got an extra alternator belt, too, when that one snaps. So I've got one.
Oh, good.
All right, we got one standing by. I had to order that one. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.